Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast for Run It Radio. I'm Trina Wilcox, and today I'm joined by two ladies that have developed an amazing app. Jacqueline, Alexa, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much. Happy to be here.
So go back a little bit and tell me, first of all, a little backstory about why you felt this was needed, and then how you made it all come together.
Yeah, so I have many disabilities due to chronic illness. And for years I was on dating apps, on the mainstream dating apps, and I would face a lot of discrimination, a lot of ableism. I would receive really offensive comments, and then people would ultimately reject me due to my chronic illnesses. And so for years, I looked for a dating app for people like me because I just wanted someone with that shared experience and who just wouldn't judge me for something that I can't change. And I could never, ever find anything. And I was always so confused because there was a dating app for farmers and there's dating app for single parents. There's really a dating app for everything. And then back in October of 2021, I had to get a feeding tube due to my gastroparesis. And we really began to panic about what my life would look like in general, and then in turn, how my dating life would change. And Alexa just really suggested, how about we make it ourselves? And so we called up our parents and asked them if they thought it was a good idea. They said yes, and now we're here.
That is amazing. It's hard to, first of all, when you're dealing with the chronic conditions, just to stay afloat with your baseline, but then to actually do something about it, it takes a lot of energy. So it's great that you've got support around you. How old were you when you started noticing that you were having some conditions that were beyond your control?
Yeah, I became sick in 2009 when I was 14, and come to find out that maybe it was triggered by having mono, but that I was born with a bunch of genetic components, congenital heart defects that were never caught or never diagnosed. And so it wasn't until high school where I knew I was chronically ill and I had any sort of health conditions. And then I was very up and down throughout high school and throughout college. I managed to graduate college on time. And then after I graduated, I really took a downward spiral and my health became rapidly worse. And and so now I'm here and I'm about to turn 29, and I've really learned how to deal with just the ups and downs of having chronic illness and having a dynamic disability. And I know that no day is going to look the same. And so it's been hard to deal with, but it takes time.
Now, one of the conditions we have in common is rheumatoid arthritis. I saw you on the Arthritis Foundation's feed on LinkedIn, and that's how I met you. And I think it's great that you're able to tell your story and connect with other people. That, for me, I've always been very bashful about it growing up, and bashful saying it nicely. I was ashamed and embarrassed, and I didn't want to talk about it. So things thankfully have changed. How did you know that you were going to be comfortable sharing it, or were you always just bold, like, this is what it is?
No, Alexa, I used to never talk about it. And I never connected with anyone else who had any chronic illnesses. And so I basically, just as being forced to with Dateability, I've had to learn how to be comfortable sharing my story. But like you, I was so embarrassed. Like, I would hide any sort of opportunity to talk about chronic illness or disability. And like, I knew that I identified as disabled, but I just didn't want anyone else to know that. And so, yeah, it's been an experience having to come out and talk about it and be open and be vulnerable. But ultimately, like, the ability to connect with people is worth it, because I've really learned that I'm not alone in this.
Yeah, that's something I'm learning is that it is worth it to share, but it is hard to talk about it when you hardly know what's going on yourself. Because, like you said, no 2 days are the same with how you're going to feel. As a sibling, what's it been like for you to watch her change and actually grow into the comfort level?
Yeah, it's been wonderful. You know, she is a wonderful person with or without her disability. And I used to give her a lot of grief for trying to hide it or trying to do activities that I knew she couldn't do. And I would just be like, why are you doing that? Like, that's going to make you hurt later. And it's not even worth it. Like, it's not even like this incredible once in a lifetime experience. It's something like so silly. Like, why are you trying to conform to this expectation that's just that like the rest of society decided is acceptable for you, but it's silly. And so I really liked watching her come into her own. I think it's probably very liberating for her. I think meeting all of these people that she would have never met before is great. And that's, why we created Dateability, so that people could meet other people that they might not meet on the street or at a restaurant or at bars. I think, at least for Jacqueline, even, like was always more social than her, even though we're both pretty introverted, but just because I had the energy levels to do more and I recover more, I can get like a good night's sleep. And the next day I wake up and I can ready to start the day. And so I think that there are probably a lot of people in the disability community who feel that way. And so there's less interaction. I know that, Jacqueline didn't really have any close friends who were disabled. And I think that's part of it. It's a lot of people are managing their health. Now with the pandemic, like we're all, more hesitant to just go out into the world and socialize without masks and be around people. I think it's really caused a lot of us to become more isolated. And so Dateability provides that online platform for people to meet.
Did you find the pandemic to be, I mean, challenging is putting it lightly, but did it just kind of rock your world?
Yeah.
Let's start on do you have 2
I
hours?
mean, like it was like for me, it's like when you actually have the energy to actually go out, then you're like, well, I've got to put the mask on and it just seemed like a different level of trying to muddle through.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was kind of nice because people got a glimpse into the isolation that we experience. And like, so everyone was home. It wasn't like I felt like I was missing out on anything. And people were constantly complaining about being like homebound and just being confined. And I was just like, well, you've got a little insight to what a lot of people are dealing with. And so the beginning was nice. And then once the rest of the population started to say that the pandemic's over, it's been difficult. We're both extremely safe and, we don't do any maskless indoor activities. And so it can be even more isolating, just watching everyone else move on while we're still living in it. But I think the important thing to remember is that there are so many people in our community who are still living like us. We're just not being loud about it. We're not posting on social media
Yeah.
on our couches, and stuff like that. So it's, we're not alone, but it can feel like we're alone.
Now that you've got this platform and you've been connecting with more people that have chronic conditions like you, has it been a challenge to make sure that you're surrounded by the right kind of realistic positivity and not the toxic positivity?
Yeah, both toxic positivity and the toxic negativity, because I see that on both sides, that it's like every question you might surround yourself is like, it's they're just like looking for, misery in company. And so it can be difficult to navigate those conversations of like, I don't want to necessarily be toxic positive, but just like realistic, because I'm not a complainer. I live a very happy and fulfilled life. So I'm like, stop bringing me down. And then at the same time, don't tell me, oh, it's okay, everything will be okay. So just managing that. But yeah, toxic positivity is definitely a huge huge thing that I've seen in this community. If that you'll get through it, or you can do
Yeah.
this. Like, actually, like, well, I probably won't ever be able to do this. And it will just be easier if everyone can be comfortable with that.
Yeah. And then like you touched on a little bit, the complaining, like for the longest time there weren't groups, and then all of a sudden there was a group for everything. And I found myself trying to distance myself because it was just complaining. It wasn't just expressing, a feeling, like that makes sense, but to just dwell and whine and complain was just hard to deal with. So
Yeah. And I see a lot of, like, I also saw that a lot of that in Facebook groups. So I have, removed myself from most of them. And it's a lot of the sick Olympics, and who can prove on the internet who's the
yes,
most chronically ill out of all of us. And
yes,
I
it's
feel
not
like
helpful.
there's a balance. And I hope what Dateability offers is more like, instead of a platform to complain, more of an understanding. So if you're supposed to have a meetup with somebody and you're having a flare up or a bad day, you can just tell that person, like, hey, I am having a flare and I have to rain check. And instead of that person, like maybe an able-bodied person who doesn't understand, give you grief, the other person be like, okay, I totally understand. Let me know if you want to chat. I'm here and we'll rain check. Things like that, I think, are so beneficial. And it's neither toxic positivity nor toxic negativity. It's just reality. And
yes,
you're comfortable to be on being honest that, oh, I'm not having a good day.
yeah.
But it's not like anything, it's not taking either to an extreme. And I really hope that that's what people find on the app.
So let's talk a little more about the app. What is it like? Walk me through what it would be like for a new person deciding they're going to go for it, and how is it different from any other app?
Yeah, functionally and visually, it's very similar to the other apps that we all know: Hinge, Bumble, Tinder. You sign up, you have to upload a minimum of 4 pictures, and and we do have, what's different though is we do have image descriptions. It's up to the user whether or not they want to use them. Luckily, because our user base is more familiar with disabilities in general, a lot of our users are already putting in image descriptions. You put in where you're from, political affiliation, vaccination status, things like that are on all the other apps. But what makes us really different is the Datability Deets section, and it's an extensive list of broad terms used to describe one situation. So one might put wheelchair user, Jacqueline would put permanent medical device, or an immunocompromised, chronic pain. And it's optional. We don't want to force anyone to share information they're not comfortable sharing, and it does not contain diagnoses, but there is a type in option. And so if you want to add more detail or add that diagnosis, that's up to the user, but it goes on your profile under basic information. And we think it's a way to neutralize and destigmatize disability. It is under your basic information, like, do you want kids, and where are you from? What level of education do you have? It's basic, it's neutral. We also feel like it really allows our users to be seen. Like, we see you, we see what you may be dealing with, and we don't want you to hide it or feel shame around it. We want you to be loud and proud and open about it.
Yeah, we've had a lot of feedback that it's a relief to have this section on the app, because someone doesn't have to explain themselves, and it can also be a conversation starter. Like, oh, you have chronic pain? So do I. And so it can be a nice way to just connect with people who understand you.
What's your age range that you've seen?
We've seen all sorts of ages. We do see a lot of seniors. We see Gen Z and millennials. And so we really want it to be a place where anyone who is looking for someone can find it. We're open to the LGBTQ community. And so we really want to serve a diverse platform. And so that means people with physical, intellectual, and psychiatric disabilities, along with chronic illness, are welcome to join. And it's free. So that's the best part, is that we don't expect the community to just shell out $30 a month for something that they don't know is worth it. And so we really want to gain the trust of our community and say, hey, we're making this platform for you, and we're committed to making it the best it can be.
So how do you get supported? Do you have sponsors or do you sell ads?
We will eventually implement ads, and we want those ads to be accessibility forward brands. We want, we don't want to just take them from anyone.
Yeah.
We really want this to be a community that fosters relationships, whether it's friendship or romantic relationships, and just like a community where we see disability and accept it. Right now we're looking for investors to further fund our venture.
Yeah, we eventually will add a subscription model
Yes.
and like
Okay.
the other apps, but right now we're completely free.
We're
And
really
what did you,
users.
was that?
Sorry, we're really focused on getting as many users as possible before we implement the subscription model.
Excellent. When did you very first launch?
At the end of October of 2022.
Okay. So it's still fresh and new and very exciting. So right now you're just focused on romantic relationships. Do some of the apps have categories where people who are just looking for friendship and companion? Is that something you plan to incorporate as well?
Only one of the apps that I'm aware of has the option for platonic companionship, and that is something that we will be adding as soon as we get the funding to do so. That will be our first implementation. So we're hoping sometime this summer we can have that, because we know that that's important too. Like I mentioned, Jacqueline doesn't have many close friends who are disabled, and we've heard that from other people who are even married with kids. Like, oh, I wish I could find just girlfriends who understand. And so we think that's really important.
Yeah, it really is. I never met someone until I was an adult who had been diagnosed as a kid either. So
Yeah.
it was just different. It's very different. And like you're saying, people try to be understanding, but they just don't get it always, even though they mean well. So I wish you very well with this. I'm very excited with where it's going for you. What else can you tell people? Where do they need to go for more information and to follow up, or if they want to invest?
Yeah, so we are on Instagram at Datability app, and you can download the app on iOS for Apple or Google Play for Android. And we also have a web application version. So if people prefer to use their computers, they can just go to databilityapp.com. And you can always shoot us an email. You have our emails on our Instagram or our website, which is info.databilityapp.com.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Come back.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.